The Pixel 7 Pro. After 1 month of use, my longer term review. The headline here has to be one thing, and that's the Black Friday sale, $749, which is really, when you look at the landscape, especially here in the United States for smartphones, $749 for what you actually get here, regardless of what you think of Pixel devices, is quite impressive, and that is a nice deal. This is a device that's been out only a month, that has the latest and greatest. It might not be Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus territory in terms of performance, but it doesn't have to be. We don't use all that power. This is certainly close enough. And when you talk about that big savings at $749, it's definitely something worth looking at. And this phone, when I like to come up with themes for these devices and things that I'm thinking about. And when I started using this device, I kept coming back to the same thing. It's good enough. I don't love it. I don't love it like I love the Pixel 6a, which every time I touch is just and start using, when I think about $299 and all that it provides and the build quality and the way, the design and everything, I just fall in love with that device over and over and over again every time I pick it up. I don't have that feeling here. But at the same time, I didn't need to. This is not one of those times where Google had to knock it out of the park. This is not one of those times where Google had to take a big swing at design. This is one of those times where Google had to get the ball in play. They just had to give us something serviceable. And that's not, it sounds harsh. I understand. It sounds like it's mediocre or anything like that. It's not. It's really not. It's a wonderful device, especially when you think of the money. But that's just the way I frame it, because that, to me, is what Google's doing here. And that's a good thing. They didn't have to do a lot with the design. They had the big swing on the design last year. They didn't have to do a lot with the Android 13. They already kind of went through the growing pains of 12. They released 13 a couple of months early so they could get the refinements in when this Pixel 7 Pro released. They did what they needed to do. It just needed to be good enough, and it is. That was the bar. And it's a high, if you look around the landscape, it's not exactly easy. It's not as easy as it seems when it comes to these smartphones being good enough and worthy of your money. And this absolutely is. Absolutely is. You're going to get everything you'd want at $749 and then some. You're going to get that 12 gigs of RAM. You're going to get that 1440p OLED display. Fantastic. The November update has done a lot in terms of battery life. I don't have the drain that I had before. So here we're at 85%. It's at what? 420 now. This came off the charger 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning. No issues. The battery drain and all that, and I've been using it all day long. No issues. Battery is back over 6 hours, more like 6.5 hours of screen on time, which to me is good enough. You're going to get this build quality, which is fantastic. I love the metal band on it. I love the redesign of the camera hump here, where you got kind of it molded in a little bit more. I love the glass on the back. We'd all love the frosted glass, but I do like the snow, the Stormtrooper version. I think that's the best of the three colors that they had. But overall, the design, you can't complain about it. It's a design you either love or you hate. And you made that decision a year ago at the Pixel 6. So if you're still here, you at least, you sort of love it. Or you've warmed to it enough to where you're thinking about this. Fingerprint sensor is good, but let me tell you what, barely have needed it. Because the face unlock is really good. Superior face unlock. And if it's a little bit more secure than some of those OnePlus ones, that's fine. It's just as snappy. And when it doesn't work, those few times it's in the dark or I'm at a angle or something like that, the fingerprint sensor has worked 100% better than it did the year before. The camera, I'm not even going to show you any more cameras. You know about the Google Pixel camera. This one is one that if you need those natural shots, if you don't need the oversaturation that the Samsungs provide, if you don't need that kind of warmish tone that the Apple iPhones provide with their camera, then this is the one for you. And I understand you could save a couple bucks and get yourself the Pixel 7, just the regular one, and sacrifice that telephoto lens. But if you can afford it, and you like the 120 hertz on the display, and you like the 12 gigs of RAM, and you like the 1440p, picking up this telephoto, even at 5x, makes a significant difference to your photos from far away. I'm not a photographer. I don't care about these, whatever. But when I had those opportunities to get just a little closer on an image, it made all the difference to have that optical 5x zoom on there, and it made for some great photos overall. Android 13 running well, not had any issues with it. Super smooth. I've loved it from the start. It had a little bit of a hiccup in August on the full release on Pixel 6, but it's been rock solid on the Pixel 7 Pro, and it's certainly something you'll enjoy, especially if you've been waiting. If you've been waiting for that other shoe to drop. It's a lot of people waiting for that other shoe to drop on this if you were burned by the Pixel 6 Pro last year. You can absolutely take advantage of an upgrade or a trade-in and get yourself a Pixel 7 Pro, because I think you're going to like this experience a heck of a lot better. Smooth, decent display, still not the brightest, still not the most saturated, but a lot of people like that. A lot of people like that better. If your work requires, social media, you have to have an accurate image, you have to see stuff on Instagram a certain way, this is going to be the best option for you. I think this is the most, even with iPhone, those displays get warm. I think this is the most color accurate display. I don't particularly care about that. That's why I like the punchier displays of the S22 Ultra, but I do believe this is nice, color accurate. That 20 or 25% brightness that they advertised on the display this year does make a difference. Still not as bright as your iPhone, which is 9,000 nits or something like that. Still not as bright as your S22 Ultra, but the gap is narrowed. It's not quite that chasm that it was previously of where Pixel devices were super dim and the other ones were bright. This is now at least in the ballpark. It's in the same realm as those other devices, so you're not going to feel gypped or ripped off on this in terms of brightness and the display. But overall, you put that package together, and then you add in all the Pixel extras. You add in all the stuff with Now Playing and all the stuff that Pixel does and all the translation stuff and all the stuff with, if you're somebody who has to go through a lot of dial-up menus, paying bills, the fact that you could just sit on your phone and select the one that you want is, I don't know how much time that'll save you in any given month if you're big on that, but that's worth the dollar amount. The Google extras are worth it. We've said this for years, even when they had troubles with the Pixel 6 and the software was a mess. And when they had confusion with the hardware with the Pixel 5, not knowing what direction they wanted to go in. The Pixel extras and the Pixel experience is worth money. It's worth something. But the hardware had to match it, and the software overall experience of Android had to match it. Finally, it does. Finally, it does. Took them a while. It took them a long time. But finally, the hardware, you don't feel like you're getting ripped off. It's not under-rammed. It's not underpowered. It's not a dim display. All those things that we battled with over the last 5 years on Pixel devices. Always with less RAM. Always with a dull display. Always with something goofy about it. All of that has been taken care of here hardware-wise. They have the software experience with Android 13 to match it, and those Pixel experience extras add up to something that is absolutely worth the $899 price tag they were originally asking, and certainly worth, as our polar bear friend takes a dive there, cut him off, absolutely worth the $749 that you charge right now. Really great. The November update has solved the overheating. From the few times that it felt warm, I haven't felt it get warm once. And that's with gaming. That was a bunch of other stuff. I was doing video on here the other day. No issues. Didn't feel it warming. If you're still getting warming after the November update, leave a comment below. I'm curious to hear what your story is there. But if you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.